Hello and welcome to Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, brought to you by MegaPixx Media. Joining me today is Paula Allen, Global Leader and Senior Vice President of Research and Total Wellbeing for LifeWorks. Thanks again for joining us, Paula.
Always a pleasure, Mario.
Well, LifeWorks put out its monthly mental health index today. Maybe if you could just start the conversation, Paula, by telling me in general terms what the index has found about the latest state of mental health in Canada.
Okay, sure. There's a couple of things. One is, and this is a good news, we're continuing to inch up. So we're at negative 9.7. And if people are following, we started out in April of 2020 at negative 11, which was what that means is a significant decline. Negative scores are a decline in mental health compared to the pre-pandemic period, 2019 and before. Okay. So we're still unfortunately in the negative end, but we've increased 2 points. At 2 points, it starts to become meaningful. So still a long way to go. It's been a long haul, but we're trending in the right direction, largely driven by optimism.
And let me ask you why we're, driving towards that more positive outlook and a more optimistic outlook. Like, what are contributing to that right now?
Well, I think we still have the anxiety. We still have, increased symptoms of depression. We still have a lot of the fallout from this last period. So, we've seen increases in drinking behavior. We've seen increases in eating disorders. We've seen a lot of things. But on the other hand, we are seeing a little clearer light and more realistic light at the end of the tunnel. So I think we're not really necessarily saying that there's going to be a switch flipped and everything goes back to the way it was. We're starting to realize that we'll have to adapt to a new reality for a little period of time and that we can adapt. So people are really realizing that they've been through a lot of strain and they have the ability to go through even a continued difficult time and still have a normal, fulfilling life.
Okay. One of the interesting things I found in the survey and in the news release was the fact that worsening isolation among Canadian employees. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the index found and what that means?
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the cautionary things. So there's two things that cloud a completely rosy picture. One is that we've been going through this for a long period of time. And the longer your brain is under strain, the more difficult it is. But the other is this isolation piece. So isolation in our society is not something new. We had a real problem with it even before the pandemic. And it's become a lot worse. And we are actually seeing some increased risks for people who are working, away from the workplace, working from home. So there might be a lot of positives to working from home, and a lot of people want to continue doing it. But I think the data is pretty clear that you don't have that sense of belonging with your work colleagues. And that's an important part of your life, just as a sense of belonging and acceptance is in your personal life.
And what are the consequences of that, of worsening isolation? Like, how does that manifest itself for people in terms of, their well-being, their, I guess, their overall state of mind, I guess?
Yeah, well, I think probably the simplest way to put it is that it just makes virtually everything worse. So, when you think about, the impact not only on mental and physical health, it's astounding. One of the former Surgeon Generals in the United States said the health impact is equivalent to years of chain smoking. The strain on your body when you don't have social contact impacts your ability to fight illness. It impacts your cardiovascular health. So it impacts that part of your health and well-being in addition to your mental health. And there have been studies that said when people feel isolation at the extreme end, which is informative. It's not what we all experience, but it's informative. The response that your brain has is similar to physical pain. Like it's actually literally painful. And on the other end, think about it. Punishment is solitary confinement for a reason. That is extreme punishment. On the other end, we know that when people do feel connected, when they do feel a sense of social support, when they do feel a sense of belonging, that there is unquestionably less of an experience of stress in even the most stressful situations. So we're losing one of the biggest buffers to our stress, which is that sense of connection. And we're unfortunately going in society a little bit faster, even though we were trending like this before, we're going a little bit faster to being more isolated, and that impacts all aspects of our well-being.
Okay, one last thing about the index. One of the other aspects that I found quite interesting was people who are feeling unwell continue to do work, and obviously because of that, the productivity of their work suffers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and we're finding that, a large portion of Canadians, the majority, 54%, say that they work unwell at least one day a week. So this isn't, sporadic. This is on an ongoing basis. And I think that kind of tells us that, we are in a situation where people are less well. We've seen it from a mental health point of view. We've seen people delay access to physical care, and very often, and even the work from home can kind of mask and make you feel, well, you can get through. You might not be feeling all that great, and yeah, it's wonderful to do as much work as you can, but it's not wonderful if that means that you don't take care of yourself and deal with the root cause in the first place. So we do know this sort of, the term is presenteeism, is something that's increasing, and it is impacting the quality of work and the overall production of work, as well as it's impacting people's motivation even to take care of themselves.
Well, I guess, going back to the previous, subject that we were talking about, the isolation of working from home,
Yeah.
for people, if they're not feeling well, if they got a bit of a fever or whatever, a cold, they're working from home, so they continue to work, right? Whereas if they were in an office environment, they wouldn't go in, right? So is that contributing to that?
It is a bit, and it's not a bad thing to do as much as you're able to do. You might not be able to do 100%, but if you can do something, and it actually in one way kind of helps people feel continue to feel some level of productivity. The
Yeah.
negative part of it, though, is that this is sustained. Like, it is not what we should accept, to feel unwell one day a week. That says that there is an underlying problem. And again, we have been delaying seeking access to physical care. We have been delaying seeking access to mental health care. We should not be accepting just being unwell and not dealing with that root cause. That is the fear, that we could be masking something much bigger.
Okay, super. Thanks again for joining us, Paula.
All right, a pleasure, Mario.
All right, that was Paula Allen, Global Leader and Senior Vice President of Research and Total Wellbeing for LifeWorks. This has been Business Insider with Mario Toneguzzi on YYC Business, brought to you by MegaPixx Media. Thanks for joining us.